At APS, we envision a world powered 100% by clean energy, and we are committed to doing our part to help small businesses across Arizona. The Going Green, Going Smart program is designed to arm you with tools to save money, save energy, and attract new customers to your small business. The COVID-19 pandemic has had unprecedented impacts to our economy and especially our small business community. And this program is designed to help you take your small business to the next level and come back even stronger. You will learn how to build a sustainability plan, create an energy audit checklist, as well as a green marketing plan through our on-demand training program. You'll earn the certificate in less than 60 minutes, and it's free of charge. So please be sure to visit greenbizaz.com for a list of resources and scheduled events.
Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Going Green and Going Smart Expert Session webinars. My name is Edgar Olivo from the Compass CBS Foundation and your host for today's program. I am so glad you are joining us today. As usual, we're going to have a great conversation about what small business owners need to know about water conservation efforts in Arizona. Living in the Arizona desert, water is scarce, and conserving it is a priority for our Arizona ecology and economy. Upgrading to low water use appliances and equipment will eventually show a return on your investment. But what else can a small business do to conserve water? We will discuss solutions that can be driven through changing employee and customer behaviors. Practicing a low water philosophy in your small business can help ensure a long-term sustainable water supply for Arizona. Reducing water use helps meet future needs, results in cost saving, decreases energy use, and helps preserve the environment. In today's expert session, we will discuss this and more. Our great lineup of sustainability expert panelists come from diverse backgrounds, and they will share with you their insights and perspectives on how small businesses can conserve water and understand the current water situation in Arizona. They have some great tips prepared, so you don't want to miss that. If this is your first time tuning in, I'd like to give you a special welcome. These expert sessions are designed to help you expand your Going Green efforts and complement our on-demand certificate program. If you haven't explored the certificate course, I'll share more details at the end of today's expert session on how you can earn your free Going Green certificate. Our mission is to help small businesses across the state of Arizona save energy, save money, and grow sustainably while conserving our natural resources by offering this complimentary and online program. We know sustainability has reached a tipping point, and it is important to your customers and the planet we live in. This program will provide you with important skills to help you achieve your own goals and beyond. So let's get started. I'd like to start with a simple question for you. What does your small business do to conserve our most precious resource, water? If you've been following the news lately, you'll discover that Arizonans are now restricted on how much water we could use, and the situation will not likely go away anytime soon. Arizona is home to our dry desert climate and to some of the world's most iconic landscapes like the Grand Canyon. Arizona is also where the Hoover Dam is located, and it is where it helps control floods, provide irrigation water, as well as generate hydroelectric power. But as the climate change continues to intensify, Arizona has been embattled with a myriad of issues, among them being the increasing threat of more water shortages. According to earth.org, here are 5 facts you need to know about our water situation in Arizona. Temperatures in Arizona have been steadily rising, with average summer temperatures now 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit higher compared to levels over the past 50 years. Hotter days increase evaporation rates, leading to sources of water becoming more stressed and threatening water availability. There's no clearer example of this phenomenon than what is currently happening at the Colorado River and its 2 reservoirs, Lake Mead and Lake Powell, which are the primary water supply for Arizona's 7 million residents. Water levels on Lake Mead, the largest reservoir in the U.S., is currently experiencing historic low water levels caused by the ongoing 20-year-long mega drought in the U.S. West, as well as a reduced snowpack in the Rocky Mountains. This snowpack is where it usually provides a steady supply of water as it melts. Lake Powell, upstream on the Colorado River, is also experiencing water dropping to its lowest levels since it was filled over 60 years ago. These record lows prompted the first ever Tier 1 water shortage declaration for the reservoirs, which has been in effect since early 2022. The water shortage declaration now requires water users, including states like Nevada, as well as Mexico, to conserve and reduce its water consumption. But Arizona was hit hardest by the declaration, with nearly 1/5 of the state's water supply being cut off. According to the Arizona Department of Water Resources, 41% of the state's current water supply comes from groundwater, 36% from the Colorado River, 18% from in-state rivers, and 5% from reclaimed water. Experts predict that water levels in Lake Mead will not likely recover soon due to current global warming projections. If the reservoirs drop below 895 feet, it will be considered in a dead pool condition, which will endanger the Hoover Dam's ability to provide electricity. This could potentially leave nearly 1.3 million people in Arizona, California, and Nevada without power. As of May 2022, Lake Mead water levels are at 1,049 feet and falling. Based on 2017 statistics, the total statewide water use was approximately 7 million acre-feet, in which 72% was used for agricultural purposes, 22% for municipal use, while the remaining 6% was used for industries. Farmers, therefore, are impacted first by the ongoing water shortage declaration, forcing them to take conservation measures, including leaving a portion of cropland unused for the entire season. Municipal water users are currently spared from the shortage, but this could quickly change as water levels will likely continue to fall in the upcoming years. It is worth noting that despite a population increase of 6 million residents since 1957, Arizona has been using about the same amount of water now as they did then. Decades of conservation efforts, including the Arizona Groundwater Management Act of 1980 and year-long mandatory water conservation measures, have certainly helped. The state has also stored nearly 3 trillion gallons of water for future use for non-rainy days, which is the equivalent to serving the city of Phoenix for 30 years, according to the Arizona Department of Water Resources. With all of these important points to keep in mind, Arizona is one of the fastest growing states because of its beautiful environment, natural resources, and business-friendly ecosystem. As you can tell, there is a need to diversify our water strategies to include a range of solutions, and small businesses are in a position to innovate how we conserve our most precious resource. Our panelists will discuss this and more in our next segment. Now let's jump to our next segment and meet our expert panelists.
Hello, my name is Emma Linehan, Senior Business Relations Manager with the Arizona Small Business Association. On behalf of all of us at ASBA, welcome to the Going Green and Going Smart program. At ASBA, we're committed to driving a better environment for all of us to do business by ensuring our small business community has the tools, resources, and competitive intelligence needed to recover and thrive. With the Going Green and Going Smart program, small businesses will have the opportunity to save money, save energy, and then use that savings to continue to grow their customer base. At no cost, you can transform your business by learning how sustainable practices can put money back in your pocket and differentiate you within a competitive market. ASBA proudly supports the initiatives of the Going Green and Going Smart program and encourages our small business community to take advantage of the education and money-saving benefits by visiting greenbizaz.com.
As you just learned, water is an important resource for a strong community and economy in Arizona. To discuss more strategies and insights about water conservation efforts in our state, we have a great lineup of expert panelists. Make sure to grab your notes. We're going to have a great conversation. Our first guest is Ylenia Aguilar. Ylenia is a longtime community advocate and respected leader. She currently serves as a business development manager for Arizona Communities with Source Global, a public benefit corporation based in Scottsdale that provides innovative water technology to create clean drinking water using sunlight and air. Ylenia is a water advocate who was recently elected to serve on the Central Arizona Water Conservation District. The Central Arizona Water Conservation District is responsible for managing the 336 miles long Central Arizona project. Ylenia stepped into this role to ensure water security for Arizonans while also protecting the Colorado River and its historic significance to our region. Welcome to the program, Ylenia. Our next guest is Scott Miller. Scott is a water resource analyst in APS's Water Resource Management section, where he works with regulatory issues, water policy, and data analysis to ensure APS power plants have the water supplies they need to generate power. He has been with APS for 9 years. Before that, he spent 16 years at the Arizona Department of Water Resources, where he was the well permitting section manager, assured water supply manager, Phoenix AMA director, statewide AMA director, and Colorado River management manager. He also developed the agency's well spacing and impact rules. Scott knows his stuff. Welcome to the program, Scott. Okay, hello, welcome Scott and Ylenia to our Going Green and Going Smart expert session. How are you doing? Great. And I'm just so glad to have you both here for this very important conversation. And, to kick off our conversation, I do have one question that I ask every single one of our expert panelists when they join us. and that is, what does sustainability mean to you? We have found that sustainability is a very subjective term, but there are some uniform definitions about sustainability. But I love to hear from our experts. What does sustainability mean to you? And I'm going to start off with Scott, as I see you on my screen. Scott, please tell us, what does sustainability mean to you?
Okay. So to me, especially in Arizona, working with water resource management for the last 25 years, it really has to do with a renewable supply of water that's available for everyone in the state for many, many, many years down the road for all kinds of different uses. There are so many different types of important uses of water in the state of Arizona, and having a sustainable supply for those uses is extremely important for our economic growth and other things in the state. Agriculture is such an enormous part of the state's economy and uses a tremendous amount of water, and having a sustainable supply of water for agriculture is extremely important to continue that going for not only the state, but for the country. I mean, I always say that if you're on the East Coast in the middle of December and you're having a salad, that lettuce, those vegetables came somewhere from Arizona / Southern California, and the importance of that is tremendous. We also have a tremendous growth aspect in our state, and making sure that our assured water supply criteria are met with a sustainable amount of water that can be used to help build our economy and help new folks that are coming into our state enjoy all the great things that we have. The municipal side, the agricultural side, and then we have a huge industrial side. We have a thriving tech center that's going on in the state. We have the golf courses. We have power production. I work for APS. Power production is extremely important with water resources. And so, having that sustainable supply to keep those things going, to allow Arizona to continue to grow and thrive, is very important. And not only to have enough water for the next 5 years, but having water for the next 100, the next 200 years on down the road is extremely important. And taking all the supplies that we have into account. We have 4 types of water that we use in Arizona, and making sure that each of those supplies are managed and used in the best way that they can. So,
yeah, that's wonderful. And that's very important. I love that you highlight just how important water is to all the industry sectors. And Ylenia, you're also a respected community leader and a water advocate. What does sustainability mean to you?
Yes. Well, thank you very much, first of all, for this invite and this opportunity to talk about sustainability and water in Arizona. And so we do understand that sustainability, just in itself, the concept is to ensure that we are coexisting with Mother Earth, with the planet, and that resources like water are maintained not only for our generation, but for future generations. So as someone who comes from Mexico with indigenous background, it is my belief and my people's beliefs that we need to not only protect our water, but all of our natural resources. We know that currently in Arizona, we are moving towards a different tier starting 2023, tier 2A. And that means additional reductions. That may mean water rate increases. And in order for us to conserve and to continue to have water for future generations, we need to take the adequate measures. And sometimes it looks like it's going to be difficult decisions that a lot of us will have to make, especially those of us who are leading on boards that have to do with water conservation. But sustainability is really ingrained in everything that I do. Even in my professional role, I work for a company that produces a technology, hydro panel, that produces water from sunlight and air. So essentially, we're creating pure water and mineralizing it with calcium and magnesium, and providing communities with access to clean drinking water with water. And so that is part of like our mission, that where we have sustainability embedded into the work that we do. Mm-hmm. And we know that with the acidification and the drought, we are going to continue to experience shortages, and we have to come up with solutions that are going to not necessarily combat the global climate crisis, but help with like short-term solutions to alleviate this problem that we're going to be seeing in the next, in our lifetime at least, because this isn't, unless we get a lot of snow in the Rocky Mountains, the Colorado River delivers most of the water that goes into the cities and municipalities where the most dense population lives, which is Maricopa County, Pima County, Pinal County, farming in Pinal County, and agriculture, as mentioned before. Most of the leafy greens that go anywhere in this country originate most of the time from Yuma or California. So water is definitely precious for most cultures. Water is life, agua es vida, and something that we can't take for granted. It's something that we need to ensure that we are protecting. And it all starts with human behavior, right? Like we are all responsible for what is currently happening with climate change. And as humans, we're responsible for what's going to happen in the future, and the people who are in charge and get to make decisions, whether you are a small business owner or you are a legislator or congressman or on a water board, or you work in any type of role that has to do with water management. Like we are the people who get to decide how our decisions are going to impact not only like our city, our state, but the globe, right? At the end of the day, we are all like, it's all like an after effect. Like what happens in Brazil in the rainforest is going to impact what happens in California and Arizona. So at the end of the day, like every decision that we make, whether it's as a human being or as a business owner or as a water leader, like that impacts and has, sometimes unintended consequences. And those will impact generations to come.
Yeah. I love that you said agua es vida, water is life. And, human behavior does drive a lot of the consequences that we're going to see when it comes to water. And, Ylenia, you've already alluded to this, but I also would love to expand on our conversation. Why is water conservation so important right now for Arizona? I know we live in an arid climate. It's a dry climate. We depend on a lot of other ecosystems to produce our water. But, from the business perspective or your perspective, Scott, why is water conservation so important right now?
So it's interesting when I saw that question. I've been working with water conservation for about 25 years now, and when it says why is it so important right now, I kind of always have to say it's always been important. It's always been something that we've always looked at and strived to do in the state, in Arizona, and with the 7 basin states, our neighbors that utilize Colorado River water. But right now, we're in a historic drought with the Colorado River system and all the shortages that are coming down the way with that. Of course, right now it's in the news media, it's on everybody's minds because of the levels at Lake Mead and Lake Powell. But coming up to that, even back in early 2000s when the lakes were full, the Arizona Department of Water Resources, the 7 basin states were still continuing to talk about conservation along the river and what needs to be done to make sure that we have enough supply to grow and to do the things that we want to do. And, when you look at the decline of the system over the last 20 years, you can see the steady decline. And even in 2007, when the 7 basin states got together and decided we needed to manage these 2 systems a little bit more conjunctively and come up with shortage criteria on what would happen if these lakes get to certain levels. And then fast forwarding to 2019, when the DCP was established down here in the lower basin and the DROA was put together in the upper basin. And even this last year with the call from the Bureau of Reclamation saying that we need to conserve up to 2 to 4 million acre feet of Colorado River water. I mean, all those things compounding over the last 20 years, we're at a point right now. So water conservation right now is critical to try and slow the declines of the system. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of focus on also is while everybody's looking at and focusing on the Colorado River system, and it's physically so daunting to see that system drain the way it has. We have other supplies that we need to make sure that we conserve and we utilize in the right way here in Arizona to make sure that we have the water that we need to continue with our way of life. Groundwater is a huge part of our overall water system and has been for decades. And the Groundwater Management Act back in 1980, and when the Department of Water Resources was created, it focused on groundwater conservation and how we can try and utilize this finite supply more responsibly. When we were bringing in Colorado River water, it was extremely important to talk about groundwater conservation. If we're going to bring in a new supply of Colorado River water, we also need to make sure that we have conservation measures in place for our existing supplies of water. And not only groundwater, but our in-state water supply systems, so the Salt River Project and things like that. And then a growing water supply is effluent. APS, we utilize an extremely large amount of effluent for cooling at our Palo Verde nuclear generating facility and our Red Hawk combined cycle power plant out in the West Valley. And that's a very great use of that type of supply for those uses that provide a tremendous amount of power and energy for the region, really. But effluent is becoming even more so important with the talks of DRP, direct potable reuse from the cities and things like that, and trying to use different sources of water for different uses. And so water conservation right now is extremely important, not only because of what's going on in the Colorado River, but the other supplies that we're relying on to make up for the shortages in the Colorado River also have to be utilized in a very important way, a very concise way of how we do that. Groundwater management was always put together to have folks rely on renewable supplies of water and get off groundwater for situations just like this. I mean, I always talk about surface water supplies. Colorado River, Salt River supplies in the Phoenix area are kind of our checking account where it's replenished every year and we use that. And our groundwater supplies is our savings account that we have in case of a rainy day, or in this case, a non-rainy day. So we are at that point where we need to rely on our groundwater sources, our in-state surface water sources, and our effluent sources to make up for the difference in Colorado River system reductions. But we need to make sure that we do that and we don't drain our savings account before our checking account gets replenished. And so right now it's really important to focus on those things, I think.
Yeah. I love that you talked about all the different types of use of water as well, and making sure that we can get the most out of those resources from wherever we're harnessing them. And Ylenia, I know that you're stepping into a very important role as well. And I'd love to hear, why is water conservation so important right now?
Yeah, Scott did an excellent job at really focusing on why it's important. The first thing he said, it's always been important. It's not just something that's important right now. Like right now, everyone's paying attention because of the fear that's instilled when you talk about drought and aridification and reductions and water rate increases. And of course, that's concerning, and everyone's paying attention now, which, we should be doing every day, of our lives. Like, this isn't, I come from a third world country in Mexico. We don't get to just take 30-40-minute showers or like go to the tap and drink water. Like, that's just a luxury that Americans have for the most part. And, this is definitely like a shift in thinking that now we're starting to have. And I expressed earlier, behavior patterns need to change. We've seen, in most places where we experience the lack of access to even just clean drinking water or running water. Those are the same type of ideas and type of practices that we need to implement, because water eventually will run out. Luckily, the Central Arizona Water Conservation District Board has done a good job at storing water underground. And every city has their own drought contingency plan. And what the Central Arizona Water Conservation District Board mostly, is in charge of operating and maintaining the 336 miles of the canal system, and also taxing and paying back the money that they received from the federal government to construct the canal system, which is approximately $4 billion. And besides, being a water wholesaler and setting rates and collecting taxes, this board does have an opportunity to make a difference in the conservation field by education, right? Everything starts with education, and most people didn't know that this board existed. I know that most of my friends had no idea what I was running for. And, they weren't concerned about water. But as you're now becoming an adult, or buying a home or having children, and seeing that we are having all of these, conversations where the Secretary Deb Haaland's getting involved, the Department of Interior is having to make decisions because the basin states haven't come up with, haven't worked together. We are now paying attention to water issues, right? So this is definitely something that I noticed. I've always been, it's something that's been ingrained in me. My father's a civil engineer. As an Indigenous woman from an area where water is born, always paid attention to water, and I've always, whether it's because I'm an Indigenous woman or because of my background with my father, who's a civil engineer, and everything's about conservation and, taking care of the planet. I think that's really who I've always been. And it's a shift now because like I interact on a daily basis with people who take a lot of things for granted.
Yeah.
And, even as businesses continue to come and large corporations and industries, and each city has to assure that that business will have 100 years of water assurance. And that's really up to the cities and municipalities. That has nothing to do with the board that I'm on, but this is a decision that they make. As a city, you have to forecast and make sure that if you're bringing in a data center or if you're bringing a small corporation, that there is going to be water for that business, that corporation or that business. And I think these are now things that people are thinking about because we're hearing that, there's going to be future shortages. And most people weren't anticipating that this was going to happen so rapidly. And now cities are changing and shifting and trying to be more proactive. And, whether they're incentivizing, whether they're creating programs, so you can remove your grass and move towards turf or a xeriscape. I think that has been happening with some cities. I know that Scott talked about toilet to tap. The city of Scottsdale is doing a great job in that. And then I'm from Tucson, so I have to give Tucson's kudos because they've all, I feel that it is my perspective that they've always done a great job at conservation. And, we were incentivized by purchasing certain toilets that were going to conserve more water. And even just there's all these other incentives that the city provides for us so we can conserve more water. And there's water campaigns that are in Spanish and English. So I think that is an opportunity for my current role to not only share this information in English, but also share it in Spanish because it all starts with education. And I definitely do believe that there's space for every single one of us to educate others and to share the awareness because it really is about awareness at this point. There's no need to freak out right now necessarily, but this is the opportunity for us to start correcting and start being proactive because the tough decisions will be made. And I do believe that there's a lot of innovative technology that's coming into play. We know that NDRIP, which Capboard did pilot, is going to help with agriculture, right? It's a drip system that is helping reduce the amount of water that's being wasted. And technologies like that will be really great. And we need to use technology and science to our advantage. And, the actual canal system is a civil engineering technology marvel that was created. And that has helped us with, the delivery of the water, but also very costly. What people don't know about the canal system is that it is the largest user of energy in the state. So because it's pushing water up and that takes a lot of energy. So there's a lot of things that, I've learned through this process. But I also feel like conservation is something that shouldn't be something that we're focused on right now. Conservation should be embedded in everything that we do, whether we're leading or we're owning a business or we're just everyday people who are just trying to make a difference. We need to live by, this sense of protecting our water and conserving and saving enough for our future generations. Whether you have children or not, you should care about humanity and our planet.
That's right. That's right. And I know, with everything that both of you have mentioned, there are a lot of challenges ahead and there are also a lot of opportunities. Innovative technology is definitely going to be an important tool to help us think about how we harness and conserve water. But, if we shift gears a little bit, I do want to talk about what is the greatest challenge in your perspective that Arizona faces when it comes to water conservation efforts. I do believe that it is an all hands on deck approach. We all need to do our part to conserve water at home and in business. But Scott, from your perspective, I know you've highlighted a lot of important points, and you also not only have the perspective from APS, but also from the state level. What do you consider is one of the greatest challenges that we're facing here in Arizona?
So It has to be, for me, it has to be education and getting folks involved. There's so many things that go on behind the scenes that folks don't realize. I mean, when people live here and move here, they turn on their tap and water is there miraculously every day, 24/7.
Yeah.
And they don't realize the amount of effort it takes for that to happen. And we have been blessed with sustainable water supplies. We have been blessed with cheap water. Our water in Arizona is very, very inexpensive for what you get. And so I think education is going to be extremely important for folks to understand how much effort has gone into keeping our way of life the way it is now and being able to continue that into the future with all of the conservation efforts that we've made over the last 50 years, decades, and things like that. One of the things that we have to really, really talk about is the utilization of effluent in our drinking water system with the ERP. A lot of the cities are doing that. The city of Phoenix is going around talking about how they're going to utilize their water and their resources that way. And so education is really the only thing there. Technology is there. We can treat this wastewater to drinking water standards, but it's the yuck factor that we have to get through, and educating people on that is extremely important. Desalinization is another educational factor that folks need to realize, that we have the technology to desalinize, in-state brackish water. We can do that with ocean water, with seawater, and things like that. There are so many other things that go into that besides the technology. We have the technology to treat salt water and deliver it. It takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of effort, but it takes a lot of education from folks to realize what needs to be done and what it really entails to do that. There are a lot of folks that have different opinions about that, and we just need to make sure that everybody's educated and making sure that they understand what's going on. And the other side of education has to do with just folks realizing that conservation and water management is extremely important to Arizona and to the Southwest. And there are so many people doing so many different things with every aspect of water conservation, with every kind of type of water that you see. There are so many experts that are on top of things. The state of Arizona, the CAWCD board, representatives around with businesses and things like that, working on solutions. And we all know what's going on in our water buffalo group. They call us the water buffaloes because we're just this group of folks that work with this stuff every day, all day, and just getting that education out to everybody to help them understand what you can do to help with water conservation. But there are things that are being done that can prolong our way of life and the way that we've lived and the way that we do things here in Arizona. So I would say, technology is not really our hurdle. The technology is there to treat this water, to move this water, to build canal systems, to build treatment facilities, all those things. And right now, the state of Arizona and the federal government have billions of dollars available to try and put some of these things into place. It's really educating everybody about how do we allocate that water, how do we allocate our resources to the best management system and the best water system that we can find that will serve our purposes for the time being and into the future, and also looking at how the Colorado River can react to the upcoming changes in our climate and actually, another big reason why the system is the way it is because of over allocation and not taking into account losses and things like that. So we need to manage that system differently as well. Not only with hydrology, but also with our allocation and the way that we use that water in the lower basin and how it's divided out and beneficially used in our system. So.
Yeah, that's some excellent points. I love that you mentioned education. I know that was one of the challenges that I wanted to help solve, and that's why the Going Green and Going Smart program is a resource and a tool that we put in the hands of small business owners completely for free now in English and in Spanish. So I love that you addressed that. And Ylenia, I know you have a traveling sunlight that's hitting in your window, and we are a dog-friendly show, so I love seeing your furry friends behind you. But I'd love to hear from you. What is the greatest challenge facing Arizona when it comes to water conservation?
Well, there are many challenges, and I think Scott, covered the first one, which is education, which I talked about earlier, where like in my new role, that is something that I would like to focus on, especially when it comes to, ensuring that we're providing information in multiple languages, not just Spanish, because we know that we're delivering water to, the Central Arizona Water Cap Board delivers water to 11 out of the 22 tribes. And even outside of our tribes and our Spanish speakers, we have people from all over the world in our beautiful state. So we need to ensure that we're doing a good job at language access with our communities, especially for those larger metro communities that, have the opportunity to engage in other languages. But definitely education as far as like how we're messaging, that is always the barrier. That is one of the reasons that we experience many of the things that we experience. It's because most of the people who need to be engaged are never engaged. And that could be very well because of the lack of resources or the lack of language access or many other reasons. I believe that, another challenge that Arizona will face in the future is, as far as like my role on the water board, it's the shortages, right? Like that's going to be a challenge on, definitely for us as board members. But as Ylenia, who is a human being, the challenges that I foresee as someone who engages with everyday people, with our like community members like myself who don't understand really what's happening. It really is going to be with them understanding how water impacts everything. And, if agriculture's already been impacted, they're the first ones to receive reductions. And as we see food prices go up, that is going to be a challenge for our families, especially those impoverished. At the end of the day, like we know that the data states that people living in poverty have less access to quality foods. That's already something that was happening with the future shortages and the climate challenges. Water, is going to be like gold. And if we don't have water to produce our leafy greens and our vegetables and what we grow here in Arizona, then we will see these challenges. We're already noticing them and feeling them with inflation. So that water impacts everything that we do. So that is really the reality, is that first of all, like education, which is the access to knowledge and understanding what's happening to us and what's happening in our state and in our backyard. And then number two, like we will see this continue to impact everyday people in very negative ways, right? Because water is really, even those jobs that are being lost in agriculture, they're impacting, our hardest working people working in our fields. So I definitely see that we're going to have to, get creative, whether we're creating like a tech ag hub and we become the leaders, because I know that challenges will be faced and there's going to be a lot of different issues, but I also see those as opportunities. How do we, with what we currently have, and Scott is an expert, using the technology and what we currently have, like how do we change this? And there's we always say that after like a any type of like inflation or crisis, like we reinvent ourselves, especially like our communities who are striving just to survive. We find ways to reinvent ourselves. Well, this is an opportunity for ag and tech to work together and reinvent itself and come up with other ways of growing crops, whether it's through like greenhouses or just these other innovative ways where like, in other places like Israel, they're already like experiencing what we're experiencing. So they're ahead of the ball and getting creative with agriculture. So we can follow the lead, or we can be like the center where like tech comes and helps alleviate this. But I do feel like challenges are an opportunity for us to step up, to come up with creative, innovative ways to come up with solutions for our communities, because that's what challenges do. They make us step up to the plate. They make us become more creative. They make us come up with solutions. And, I'm really grateful for the company that I work for, because the creator of the technology, work for, like that was something that he came up with because he was able to foresee what was happening in third world countries, and he wanted to come up with a solution versus like thinking about what are the challenges that these, like a lot of young women in third world countries who have to go and get water and carry the water back home. Like, how do we solve these issues? And I think that in Arizona, we have so many talented people like Scott. I was able to attend my orientation yesterday for the CAP board and seeing retire, like, and all the people that were there who were incredibly talented and doing amazing work. And even the people from all the other water acronyms, everyone's so invested and so incredibly talented, where they've made, Arizona like a desert, like the Sonoran Desert, where, we probably shouldn't, be existing in a place like this, but we are, because of technology and creative people and disciplined people and, people who have, the right ideas. I think we need to continue to support them and foster this creativity, because it is definitely going to be extremely challenging in so many ways, whether it's on the human side or just on the planning side. But I do believe that challenges and are like a place for us to, like, come up with creative, innovative solutions that will help us get to where we need to be.
Oh, completely. I completely agree with that. I think, which I'm so grateful that both of you are on this call, because both of you leading in this subject, in this important topic, makes me feel good about Arizona, that there are very, very smart brains behind a lot of the decisions and a lot of the efforts and the innovative technology that's available. So I'm very excited to be a part of this conversation with both of you. Now, our audience are small business owners, and they have to make decisions on their own every single day. And recently I've had some conversations with groups of business owners who also think that water is very important, and they also consider water as part of their security, part of their future. But, everyone does water conservation in different ways. You've both mentioned technology. APS, I'm sure, has a long list of conservation efforts that they apply. But, just from your experience, your engagements with people in the community, what are some examples of water conservation efforts that you would recommend for small businesses?
So I've worked a lot with a lot of different industries on a lot of their conservation programs, with the cities that have a tremendous amount of conservation embedded into their programs that they go through every year, proving an assured water supply for 100 years and doing all the conservation requirements that the state requires, but the cities also put into place for their own use. And so they do so many things at the city level. The farmers do so much water conservation. They know water is their life, and without it, they can't continue to do what they do. And so they have a tremendous amount of water conservation and a history of that in the state of Arizona. And they're working with different technologies to try and do that. Ylenia mentioned, the in-drip programs, and, there's all kinds of different things that the farmers are doing with land leveling and irrigating practices and growing different crops and all those things. And they're looking at all those. And then you go to the different industries. You'll even look at the dairy industry that's really heavy in Arizona, and all the things that they do to make sure that they're conserving as much water as they can at the dairy sites and golf courses. Even golf courses, folks fly into Arizona, into Phoenix, and they see all these golf courses and they wonder how we can have those. And there's a tremendous amount of water conservation that's going on with golf courses when you look at a lot of those different programs. And it goes back to education, that people just don't see it. They see green grass and they think it's a waste of water, but they don't realize the amount of conservation that's going into every drop of water that they apply. It's being done at the best way that they can. And so, there's all kinds of examples with all of those different types of things. But the one thing that I wanted to focus on just a little bit here is, with power production, the water energy nexus is such a huge topic that I talk about quite a bit with a lot of different folks. I worked so long at the Department of Water Resources, and I realized how much energy it took to get that water to come out of your faucet every day. Now working for the electric utility, now I know how much effort it takes for you to flip on that light switch and you to have power every day. And the two go hand in hand. You can't have water without electricity, and you can't generate electricity without water. As Ylenia said, CAP is the single largest electric customer in the state of Arizona. Moving that water is very expensive. Generating the power to move that water is expensive, and it also takes a tremendous amount of water to do that. And with APS, we're pretty unique in the electric utility industry. My group that I work for Water Resource Management in our group, and our focus is water conservation, water programs, and regulatory programs, and making sure our power plants have the water they need to generate the power that we need now and into the future for our customers. Most utilities don't have a whole group that focuses in on that. There's 6 people in my group, and that's all that we do. And so we take it very seriously, and we make sure that our plants are utilizing their water resources very efficiently and very effectively. As I mentioned before, Palo Verde nuclear generating facility, we use about 75,000 acre feet of effluent to cool that plant. Yeah. But that's enough electricity at that plant to serve more than 4 million people in California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. And so that plant can provide power for 4 million people, and it utilizes a recycled water source. And in addition to that, we take that water and we cycle it through our plant 25 to 30 times before we discharge that water into evaporation ponds that then do not leave the site. And so, we recycle our water multiple times, not only because the state requires it, but because we need to do that to make sure we're getting every ounce of energy out of that water that we can. Our natural gas power plants, we have what are called ZLD systems that are brine concentrators that take our water that we use for cooling and cycle that water over and over and over again. And we reuse that water hundreds and hundreds of times before it's discharged or evaporated into the environment. And so we have these systems in place at our gas power plants to recycle water as many times as we can. One of our power plants in the Pinal County area, our blowdown water, we send to a farmer so he can use that water for irrigation that helps supplement his supply of water. So it's beneficially used even after we use it. In our Four Corners power plant in New Mexico, we use Colorado River water, and we cool that water through a lake system that we then discharge back into the San Juan system that goes to Lake Powell. So we're recycling that water multiple times and then discharging it back into the system we took it in the first place to help keep water in the reservoirs in that area. So there's so many different things that we do and so many things that we're working with to try and improve those systems. And we work with a number of entities, government entities, labs, research entities that try and help us efficiently recycle water more or treat water in a different way so we have less discharge from that system, and also different ways to treat the water that we blow down and reuse. And so we're constantly working with different entities and different organizations on how we can use water more wisely, recycle as much water as we can, utilize recycled water. A lot of times when we're in these meetings with some of these folks, a lot of folks around the country are asking us, how do we do it? Palo Verde nuclear generating facility is the only nuclear power plant in the world not on a large body of water. It's the only power plant in the world nuclear power plant in the world that uses recycled water. And so we talk about that to different countries, to different states, to different entities about how we do that and how we successfully do it. Palo Verde is one of the largest generating stations in the world, and we do that using recycled water. And so there's so many different things that you can do when it comes to water conservation in your home. With exterior water use, there's so much water that's used on the outside of your home and business that you can convert to low water use landscaping. And there's all kinds of different things that you can do in a small business when it comes to water conservation and how you use water. Talking to your cities, they have tremendous amount of resources that can provide you with information about what you can do in your individual businesses. And then also working with the state and the programs that they put together, working with CAWCD, working with SRP. SRP has a tremendous record for water conservation in this state and lead in that aspect. And so just getting out and talking to different people about the way you use water and how you can conserve it more is a real great way to do it. And that's what APS likes to do. We like to help people with what we do, but we also seek out advice from folks and use the technologies that are available and some of the emerging technologies that we can try and use to help conserve more water so we can deliver all the power that we need for our customers and to make sure that we have the water supplies and make sure that those water supplies keep moving in the way that they need to do so.
Yeah, that's fascinating when you describe how how water is reused to power our energy, and how that's also setting an example for other corporations, other industries, to think about how to reuse water, because water can be reused. And if you do it just right, you can even put it back into the system, which is really exciting. And, collaboration is something that I heard in your response as well, that it's also very important. It's an all hands on deck approach. And Ylenia, I know you have a pulse on the community. You are very much involved in the needs of everyday residents. What are some examples that you would recommend for water conservation, particularly for small businesses?
Yeah, Scott did an amazing job at covering like the whole like big infrastructure, like large corporations, and super important the resources he shared, like SRP, APS, um, CAP. They have a lot of resources online. Go to your cities, municipalities. A lot of them are offering or incentivizing small businesses, but like for the everyday person, like it starts with the simple things, right? Like at the end of the day, like we're all connected. So like, if you are like a small business owner, you can do a lot of things. It starts with your consumption, and some people, I've noticed that there are the green, like eco-friendly, like businesses that are using, recycled material, that have like changed all their light fixtures because we use less energy, less water is being used, so it's all interconnected. So if you're a beauty salon owner, you can buy like like green products for your salon that are climate friendly. A lot of reused and recycled materials, when you're constructing, whether you're going to like construct a building for your business, like you can use materials that are recycled and that are eco-friendly as well. So it all starts with like, just the simplest things. And plastic bottles. I know that there are large like data centers being built in our backyard that are reducing the amount of plastic waste by removing all the bottles, and either partnering up with like the places where I work at and providing water for their employees through taps and renewable technology water systems like ours, or they're just like eliminating plastic bottles and providing them with like, whatever dispensers and water for their employees. So that's a start. Like plastic bottles, plastic waste, that's a start. Like we can all do that. Whether you are a small business owner just working from home and your staff is working remotely, or you're a large corporation and half of your staff is still working remotely, like it starts with us. It starts at your home. It starts with, your carbon footprint, the way that you shop, the places where you shop. All of that is impacting, our planet, and that's impacting water. And at the end of the day, whether you're turning on the switch, like Scott said, and the energy, like, or you have all these lights on because you need to be on a camera, or, everything impacts our water use. Absolutely everything, like whether you are making, growing almonds, like anything that we do in this planet uses water. So like you can take any type of approach and be more conscious. Like in my school district, I'm a school board member as well. Like we went from throwing all the scraps of food away to composting, and then using that compost for our community gardens and growing community gardens because that's good for the environment. So like all those things are helping with reducing, because when you're composting and creating, not throwing all these things away, you don't have to spend so much time wasting water and doing all these things. Like when the kids just leave the food on the trays and they like get stuck there, and then you have to waste all this water scrubbing all the food. Like if the kids just compost right away, that already like eliminates a lot of the food waste. And that's also bad for the environment. And then like landfill issues. So like all of these things, like they add up and they help with our water use. But as a small business owner that I was myself, like I think it's the little things, like where we shop, the actions that we take. Plastic is one of the biggest, things that I care about, and reducing the amount of plastic waste. If you have employees, provide them with other, whether they're hydro flasks and like, a Culligan system, 5-gallon system, like that's going to be better off for us versus all the waste that we cause every single day. And just like education in your small business, talk about it. Awareness is very important. And if we don't share this, or why we're recycling, or why we're using a hydro flask, why we do these things, is very important to share with your employees. Or even sometimes it's the young employees who are teaching the older business owners about conservation and living healthier. So it could be vice versa. But I do believe that there is a great opportunity for small business owners to take, initiative and approach. And there are incentives depending on what city you live in. I know, not to mention or leave friends out, but I know Tempe is doing a lot of great things, and Tucson and Scottsdale, and I know Peoria does a great job at conserving water. So look at those cities and ask, just ask questions and see how you can help the planet, because if you're helping the planet, you're going to help with the water issue.
That's right. That's right. And I just really, really enjoyed this conversation. You mentioned all of these implementations, examples from corporations on how they're implementing water conservations down to the smallest business. It all has an impact on the triple bottom line, right? People, profit, and planet. And so considering that everything is connected is very important for our decision making. And now I'm going to close out our conversation here with any final remarks, any tips that you would like to share to our audience who's watching right now and really wants to get involved in water conservation beyond just their small business. Scott, I'll start with you. Any final remarks? What would you tell our small business audience on how to get involved?
Well, it's first is taking the time to educate yourself on what's going on, and listening in on all the different type of subjects that are being discussed. I mean, now with COVID, there's been so much more opportunity for folks to join in on so many of the meetings that I have attended over the years and years and years. Before, when the Arizona Department of Water Resources would have a meeting on their management plans for conservation, or CAWCD has their board meetings every month, and there's a tremendous amount of information that's being provided in those meetings. Mm-hmm. Before COVID, nobody could take off 4 hours of their day at 10 o'clock in the afternoon and go to CAWCD headquarters and listen in on these meetings. Now, these meetings are recorded and they're live streamed, and you can watch them and learn from them. And so are ADWR meetings and things like that. And so there's so much more ways that you can become educated on what's going on in our state, in the basin itself, and what's going on. And instead of just relying on what you hear in the news reports and on the newspaper and things like that, you can actually get it from the source, from the people who are actually doing this work, and know what's actually going on. And not to say that the media is giving out any false information, but I always like to rely more on what's coming from the CAWCD board on the Colorado River system, or from ADWR on what's going on with our groundwater supplies and things like that. I get so many people asking me, they say, hey, I read this article, or I saw this report and things like that. Is that true? And I can say, here are some of the things that I know about, that the only reason why I know about it is because I attend these meetings all the time. And so I would just encourage people to just take a look at all the different information that's out there. And it's so much more readily available now than it was even a couple of years ago, just because of the live streaming that we have and things like that. And just so everybody realizes that the Colorado River system is a tremendous asset to the state of Arizona, and it does so much for us. It's about 35 to 40% of our overall water supply. So when folks say that the Colorado River system is drying up and in trouble, and we maybe get cuts to our Colorado River allocations, they don't realize that that's a small portion of our water supply, and then we have other supplies to make up for it. And that's what we're doing. But we need to also do a number of things to make sure that we conserve that Colorado River water and try and get those lakes back up in elevation. But we also need to make sure that we rely upon our in-state supplies in a very efficient and responsible way, so we don't harm ourselves down the road by overextending ourselves with our current supplies that we have, in addition to Colorado River water systems. And so, just so everybody knows that, the Colorado River system is a piece of our water supply portfolio, and there's so many different things that we need to do with our other water supplies. And just don't look at the Colorado River system as the only water system that we have for the state of Arizona to utilize, and that we're working on how we can utilize those other systems in a very responsible and good way, and things like that. But there are so many efforts going on by so many people with the Colorado River system and how we can try and maintain that system, not only for water resources, but also for hydropower. The dwindling elevations at Lake Powell and Lake Mead are reducing our hydropower capabilities and making sure that we have levels in those lakes so we can continue to generate power from those systems, and also from the other benefits downstream. The Colorado River system is a huge riparian area, is a huge ecosystem that relies on the flow from those lakes, and making sure that we have the water in the lakes to make sure that those systems don't get affected from the shortages and things like that. And so looking at a whole of the system, not only on a water delivery system for Arizona, but looking at all the benefits that the Colorado River has. And just so everybody knows that there's so many people doing so many different things to work on those systems, and to get involved is just to reach out and just to start. And you'd be surprised how much information you can obtain right from the source and get it real time now, because of so many different things that are going on. There's meetings going on all the time that folks can join in on and learn more about, and get a lot better information about what's going on, what we're doing, and what some of the future projections look like for our Colorado water systems, for our groundwater systems, the effluent that we deliver, and even our in-state systems with SRP, and how they're managing that very large system that provides us with a tremendous supply of water for the Phoenix area in their service territory. So that's what I would like to leave today with, is just getting out there and learning more about it, and realizing how much work is actually going on, and how much work has been done in the past, and how much work is going on right now.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's great. And Ylenia, Scott is driving more audience to your meeting. So I think that is a really good tip to, watch these meetings. That's one of the benefits that did come out of COVID, that we can, watch these very important meetings live and in person and get our information. So Ylenia, what is your advice? How can we get involved in water conservation efforts from your perspective?
Yeah, I do agree. Like, technology has really revolutionized the way that we function in life. And COVID did really highlight the advantages and obviously the disadvantages for people who don't have access to information. So everything that Scott said, like, I would love to thumbs up and echo. But I do believe that information is only as good as it's accessible. And most of the people that I am working with on a daily basis, they don't have this access to information. Sometimes they lack water infrastructure and technology and internet. And, I saw it in so many different ways during the pandemic. So I do believe that information is only as good as the people who have access to it. And the reality is that not everyone does have access to information. I think it starts with something like this. What you are doing is so meaningful, because the people that may be paying attention, or the small business owners, they're trying to survive, or they're trying to run their small business, and they're spending their entire day working, because you're most of the time working or chasing your money, and don't have the opportunity to spend 2 to 3 hours on a Zoom call listening to experts. And I think that having the first step is this, a form of engagement, of awareness. This is educational for people that may have never cared or engaged in a conversation about water conservation, or what is happening with water in Arizona. So I think it starts with little things like this. And I am grateful for the opportunity, because we know that especially we have so many small businesses in our state, and these people are entrepreneurs and talented, but sometimes may not have the time to serve on a board, the time to listen to a board meeting. They're lengthy, and they can be, quite honest, pretty boring. I've sat through a lot of CAP board meetings, and even my school board meetings are pretty boring. So this isn't for everyone. And sometimes it's not an easy way to learn when you're just sitting in, unless you are a water expert and you know what they are talking about, because you will hear, the technical terms or the acronyms. And, it can be a little bit intimidating for those people who come from different backgrounds. And I say this with liberty, because I feel everything has been a learning experience for me, although I'm always been big on conservation, and I have a little bit of environmental science background in my college years. It's still a new world, and I'm learning something every day. I learned so much from Scott, for example, and I'm leading in a water role. So this is a reality, is that our audience and the people we are talking to, it starts with baby steps. This is the beginning, and thank you for creating this space for Scott and I to share about our experiences and our perspective and what we believe is to be like the reality in our spaces. But it does start with like small opportunities like this, and creating that conciencia, like that awareness, so people can understand that, understand it in better terms, and understand that, there are opportunities if they do decide to be more involved, more engaged. And yes, like once you get to the place where like, I do want to take action, like listen in on the board meetings. Actually, there are roles that you can take at a city level or any other like type of like board level if you choose to, but you have to be invested, and that investment takes time, and we know time is money when you're a small business owner or a business owner, or just in general. So we know that, these are opportunities that are great, but, when we're talking about education in our community and the Spanish speaking community and all the other communities, like that access and that opportunity and that knowledge and information never usually gets to them. So we have to find a way, and this is the first step. So thank you.
Well, thank you to both of you. It's such a pleasure to have this conversation. I feel like we covered a lot of ground, and definitely I can sense your passion in this topic. And so thank you, both of you, for your leadership in water conservation efforts here in Arizona. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of this program. I hope to have you again back soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Special thanks to our expert panel for this great discussion. We hope to have you back again soon. I hope you were taking notes at home or work. If not, don't worry. You can find this recorded segment on our website at greenbizaz.com. And while you are there, make sure to watch our prior expert webinar sessions that will surely help you expand your knowledge and become a green business leader in Arizona. If you want to take what you learned here to the next level, I invite you to check out our website, greenbizaz.com, to learn how you can earn your free Going Green and Going Smart certificate. Our complimentary certificate can be completed in less than 60 minutes, and you can learn at your own pace. And it's also now available in Spanish. This program will teach you how to build a sustainability plan, conduct your own energy audit, create a green marketing plan to help you grow sustainably, and connect with fellow small business owners who care about our natural resources in our online community. This program is also designed to help you find ways to implement affordable strategies for energy efficiency, discover smart energy devices, conserve water, reduce your waste, and connect to a community of resources. Start your transformation with us and earn your Going Green and Going Smart certificate at no cost to you by visiting greenbizaz.com. Help us spread the word with your business colleagues by sharing our website and follow the conversation using the hashtag GreenBizAZ. Thank you once again for watching our Going Green and Going Smart expert session on what small businesses need to know about water conservation efforts in Arizona. We hope you found this program valuable and look forward to hanging out with you again soon. I'll see you next time.